Tonight, a close confidant of Prince Andrew is denied access to the UK over allegations he spied for China. The anonymous businessman lost his appeal against the decision to ban him on national security grounds. Celebrations in Syria. Thousands of people take to the streets to mark the collapse of the brutal Assad regime. And a leading podcast is found to be spreading harmful health information. We ask if they should be regulated in the same way as other broadcast media. And later we speak to Donny Osmond as he takes to the stage at Edinburgh's Playhouse.
Welcome to The Seven.
A Chinese businessman described as a close confidant of the Duke of York has lost an appeal against a decision to bar him from the UK on national security grounds. Judges heard that the businessman had formed a close working relationship with Prince Andrew, receiving an invitation to his birthday party in 2020 and being told he could act on his behalf when dealing with potential investors in China. Buckingham Palace hasn't commented, saying it doesn't act for the Prince, who isn't a working royal. Here's Dominic Casciani.
A prince under pressure, an advisor standing by him, and a mystery businessman we cannot name. Was this set of special relationships now revealed in an extraordinary court document the moment the Chinese state targeted the royal family? For 10 years, Prince Andrew promoted the UK's relationship with China as a trade envoy.
I believe that China is a very, very important country. It's one that the UK needs to continue to have a good relationship with.
From state dinners to business talks, he helped forge closer ties. This one a business event 9 years ago with China's President Xi Jinping. A judgment from the Special Immigration Appeals Commission, that's a semi-secret court, has revealed that a Chinese man known only as H6 has been banned from the UK because he's a threat to national security. The Duke's advisor, Dominic Hampshire, told H6 that he could act for the Duke in talks with potential Chinese investors. When the security services searched H6's phone in 2021, they saw evidence that he might be deceiving the prince to gain influence for the Chinese Communist Party. The court found that H6 had been in a position to generate relationships with prominent UK figures, which could be leveraged for political interference purposes. There was a letter from Dominic Hampshire on the phone. He told H6 that, outside of the prince's closest internal confidence, you sit at the very top of a tree that many, many people would like to be on. H6 also had a note of how to handle the Duke himself. It said, important, manage expectations. Really important to not set too high expectations. He is in a desperate situation and will grab onto anything. MI5 concluded H6 was working for Beijing. There's no suggestion Mr. Hampshire was aware. The BBC has approached him for comment. Counter-espionage investigators feared the Duke had been the target of elite capture. That's the Chinese Communist Party's operation to seek influence across British life. And so the Home Secretary used her exceptional powers, reserved for the most serious national security cases, to ban the businessman from the UK. The Chinese embassy has called the allegations a baseless smear, but experts are not surprised.
Typically, they would go for members of the House of Lords or prominent business people or people who, have a voice in a community. It's quite ambitious to target a member of the royal family and quite unwise for a member of the royal family to allow himself to be targeted.
It was his girlfriend.
Prince Andrew withdrew from public life in the aftermath of his Newsnight interview over his relationship with the now dead sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. That relationship raised questions of judgment. There are now, thanks to this astonishing case, questions of judgment again. Dominic Casciani, BBC News.
Mass rallies have taken place across Syria on what's been called Victory Day to celebrate the end of 5 decades of authoritarian rule by the Assad regime. The BBC's international editor Jeremy Bowen sent this report from Damascus.
This ancient city has seen countless upheavals over 5 millennia.
For modern Syria, though, with its old flag restored, nothing matches the fall of the Assads. The end of the first week without an Assad in charge since 1970 brought thousands of Syrians into the Umayyad Mosque to thank God for their deliverance. The chant is, "The people want the execution of Bashar." The regime's collapse and liberation from Assad's brutal security state are powering a sense of great optimism.
For all the people here, this puts the seal on it. This is absolute proof that they have won and the regime has gone. Just flying one of these black, white and green flags a couple of weeks ago could have got you arrested, jail time, or even a bullet.
The fighters of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, are still basking in their achievement. That white flag, used by Syrian Islamist fighters, was also behind the new prime minister in a broadcast. HTS insists it's renounced its former extremist ideology. Some Syrians do not believe them. Samir, overwhelmed, back from Britain after 44 years, is hoping for a tolerant future.
This is our country. This is not Al-Assad country. He is gone now. I don't know how we are going to rebuild it. He has been corrupting this country for 50 years, but this is the people that was going to build the country. So wish us the luck, everyone in the world. And please, please, leave us alone. Leave us alone, okay? We appreciate your support, but we don't want anyone to interfere with our decisions, what we are going to do. This is their decision.
Syria's future is full of challenges. HTS is an Islamist group. What will that mean for girls and for women? How do Syrians get justice for the regime's crimes? They meant it when they called for Bashar's execution before the prayer. Their new rulers told them to celebrate the Blessed Revolution, so they did. Syrians understand that it won't be easy to overcome 50 years of dictatorship and 14 years of war. But this was a day to seize and enjoy. Thousands converged on Umayyad Square in the center of Damascus. It's as if an enormous weight has been lifted off a nation. I have never seen so many smiling people in Syria.
We are free. We are feeling.
We are free.
We are feeling the feelings of free. We never were free like this.
I want all the world to see us. We are free now.
We are free now.
And where are the south, north? We are free.
The fighters are the heroes now, bringing their kids, posing for photos with other people's. But when the party's over, people need to eat in an economy smashed by war and corruption. I asked Ibdi Halawnot and her daughters what they need.
Just needed freedom to do. No taxes, no stolen money to take them from us.
Just we want to be independent. We want to be an independent people. Syria is an independent country. Nobody controls us. Nobody can rule us, but just the Syrians themselves.
It's too soon for firm answers to Syria's problems, but the placards set an agenda. Bring the Assads to justice, civil rights for all, and Syria is for every Syrian, no matter who they are. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News, Damascus.
To some of the day's other news now, and the UK economy shrunk for the second month in a row in October after official figures showed a 0.1% drop. The economy had been expected to return to growth following a fall during September. However, the Office for National Statistics said that activity had stalled or declined, with pubs, restaurants and retail among sectors reporting weak months. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, said the figure was disappointing. The French President Emmanuel Macron has named his ally and centrist leader François Bayrou as the country's next Prime Minister in a bid to end months of political turmoil. Bayrou replaces the former Brexit negotiator Michel Barnier, who lasted just 3 months as Prime Minister but was ousted by MPs 9 days ago. And a lorry driver has been charged after an HGV crashed onto the railway line near Gretna after coming off the M74 motorway. Emergency services are dealing with the incident, which has shut the line between Gretna and Carlisle. The driver was taken to Dumfries Infirmary. Police said he had been charged with a road traffic offence. Now, the UK government has unveiled plans to speed up the time it takes renewables projects to be built. It's all in an effort to decarbonise the electricity grid. But campaigners fear their voices will be ignored. Our environment correspondent Kevin Keane has more.
They're a sight we barely notice anymore across our countryside. But with the growth in renewables, much bigger pylons are needed to carry green electricity around the country. Campaign groups like Here in the Mearns say the new towers will destroy the landscape. They're concerned that plans to speed up planning and consenting will see them lose their voice.
People who can't speak about this because they're so distressed, the impact on our lives is horrendous, and for our voice to be stifled by the government removing our right to speak, what's the point of local democracy? What's the point of our council if we speak and they listen and the government mutes us?
Upgrading the green energy infrastructure won't be cheap. The changes here alone costing many billions. The tops of these pylons are barely visible in the North Sea Har, and I'm told that the towers on the new line at points will be twice as high. So upgrading infrastructure like this doesn't come without its challenge. Scotland is a real powerhouse of renewable energy. In 2022, 70% of the electricity generated here was from renewable sources, with more in the pipeline, and the industry argues that it's needed.
You know, it takes us usually years, multiple years to get a planning permit or a consent on an onshore wind or an offshore wind project. Government have put in place targets to make sure that happens in a year or less, which means we are going to see a really significant speeding up of these essential projects.
Visiting a wind turbine factory today, the UK Energy Secretary insists community voices won't be silenced. But speeding up deployment, he says, is an active choice the government's made.
Look, people will still be able to voice their concerns about onshore wind projects, but the government is saying something important, which is we need to build this clean energy infrastructure, because if we don't, we're going to remain exposed as a country, and it's the British people who will pay the price.
The amount of green power in our electricity mix is already increasing. Both governments want a near clean grid by the end of the decade, but there's still a long way to go. Kevin Keane, BBC News, Aberdeenshire.
Now, it is one of the most popular podcasts on the planet with millions of listeners. But Diary of a CEO host Stephen Bartlett has been criticised by health experts for amplifying harmful health misinformation. The Dragon's Den star is the subject of a new BBC World Service documentary, which found that guests were faced with little or no challenge on their controversial theories and debunked health advice. Well, we can talk now to Jackie Wakefield from the Global Disinformation Unit at the BBC World Service, who did this investigation into Stephen Bartlett. Thanks very much for your time tonight, Jackie. The Diary of a CEO is a hugely popular podcast, but what made you want to investigate it a little deeper?
Yeah, so to be honest, what happened was I was just scrolling my own TikTok feed and one of these controversial guests came up, and it was something I didn't really associate with a business podcast. So it prompted me to kind of dig a bit deeper, and we found that there was a really strong pattern there of amplifying these health misinformation guests.
And so what were some of the main findings from your investigation then?
Yeah, so we looked at 15 of the recent health-related episodes and found that there was an average of 14 harmful claims per episode. Some of the claims included stuff like gluten causes autism, like the keto diet, which is low-carb, high-fat diet, could cure cancer, and other conspiracy theories or anti-vaccine sentiments. It ranged from anything from women's health to to vaccines, to anything really.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because podcasts aren't currently bound by Ofcom regulations. So in this, I mean, there's no suggestion that Stephen Bartlett has actually broken any rules as such.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So independent podcasting companies aren't covered by Ofcom or any regulation. So it sort of calls into question as podcasts become bigger and bigger. It's the third main way most of us consume our news and factual content. What is going to be done about this sector that's just going to continue growing?
from your investigations then, do you think that there is a push for that, for podcasts like this one to have to conform to some sort of regulation?
It's hard to say at this stage, but there's certainly chatter about it, given that podcasts particularly had such a big impact on the US election. And we're just starting to see a lot of that growth happening here in the UK as well.
I mean, the fact that Stephen Bartlett kind of doesn't challenge claims in his podcast, you know, it's not sort of platformed as a news podcast as such. As you say, it's a kind of business/lifestyle podcast. Is it the fact that he's not kind of challenging any of the sort of claims? It's sort of more about the tone of this podcast that's the problem, as experts have said.
Yeah, so the experts we spoke to pointed out the fact that the tone of the podcast is very amenable and very friendly to these really quite fringe ideas, and ideas that could have real impact on people if they follow this advice. And the fact that there is, in the claims that we checked, there's very little evidence of Bartlett challenging these claims. So they really can go on this podcast, broadcast to millions and millions of people, and not have any pushback on ideas that have been thoroughly debunked or unevidenced.
Well, listen, Jackie, it sounds like a really interesting podcast. We will be looking out for that one. Thank you very much for your time this evening. And just to say that a spokesperson from Flight Studio, which makes Diary of a CEO, has told the BBC that the Diary of a CEO is an open-minded, long-form conversation with individuals identified for their distinguished and eminent career and or consequential life experience. Each guest is thoroughly researched, offered freedom of expression, and we hear a range of voices, not just those Stephen and the team necessarily agree with. And you can see Jackie's investigation, Stephen Bartlett, The Truth Behind the Podcast, on BBC iPlayer now. Well, now Kenny is here with the sport, and the road to the World Cup for Scotland has been revealed.
Yeah, it's been an exciting day of names of countries being drawn out of pots. Laura, yeah. Steve Clarke's Scotland are almost completely clear on who they'll have to overcome to make it to the 2026 World Cup, which is being held in the United States, Canada and Mexico. The qualifying draw took place in Zurich today. Scotland have been drawn in Group C, which is a 4-team group. They'll be up against Greece, Belarus and whoever loses out of Portugal and Denmark in their Nations League playoff in March. Note that's now 4 matches Scotland will have against Greece in the next year, 2 in a Nations League playoff and 2 in World Cup qualifying. That qualifying campaign for Scotland will run between next September and November. Top of Group C automatically qualifies for the World Cup. Second place will go into a playoff. And remember, the last time Scotland played at a World Cup was in 1998. Sorry to have to remind you of that. Someone who featured for Scotland at France 98 under Craig Brown was midfielder Paul Lambert, and he joins us now. Hi Paul, how are you?
I'm good, Kenny, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. It's always good to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us. It's going to be a really intense next year as we look ahead to 2026. Paul, what's your reaction to the Group C?
Listen, I think all football matches are really tough to win. It's a difficult sport to win games, but I think the group indicates that we've got a really good chance. They're all good teams, no doubt about it. I think if Portugal obviously end up being in our groups, the toughest one, but I think I would take my chance against Denmark, Greece and Belarus. So the group could be harder, I think, yeah, definitely. But definitely, I think the lads, the way they're playing and the way Stevie's got the team and the way the crowd is, we've got a chance.
Yeah, and we've had decent results recently against Portugal, that 0-0 draw at Hampden, and then a couple of years ago we beat Denmark at home 2-0. So if it's either of those, we've got a bit of confidence there, Paul.
I think so. I think, obviously, as I said before, Ken, if it's Portugal, then that becomes a little bit tougher. But
saw Steve Clarke, the head coach of Scotland, on the screen there at the draw in Zurich this morning. Let's hear what he had to say about it.
We expected to be in a 4-team group because obviously we have the qualifiers against Greece in March. So we knew that's what we were going to face. Tough matches, difficult opponents. It doesn't matter who the pot 1 team is, it'll be tough. Greece we'll get to know very well over the next year, and obviously Belarus is a pot 4 team and is a tough place to play.
What are the pros and cons of playing Greece 4 times next year? You obviously face them in the Nations League playoff in March.
Yeah, well, obviously two different competitions, so we can treat both a little bit differently. We'll get to know each other very well, I think. So you might find that the World Cup qualifiers, we tend to know each other a little bit better, and maybe cagey games, but you never know in football. It's very difficult to gauge how it's going to be.
Paul, it's going to be 6 qualifying games over September, October, November, really crammed together. Do you think the players will like that?
I do. I think, listen, I think as footballers, you play when you get told to play. That's the way the game is. And I don't think the lads would really pay in significance of they've got to play them or these games, six games in a matter of 3 months. So they know they've got the job they've got to do. They know they've got to try and qualify. And if they can do that, as you said at the top of the programme there, it's been too long a time for us to qualify. So hopefully this will be the time.
Yeah, really important we end that 28-year wait, Paul. Now, another big thing is happening this weekend. We had the World Cup qualifying draw on Sunday. Huge occasion to look forward to. League Cup final, Celtic against Rangers. Rangers are the holders. Let's hear what Rangers manager Philippe Clement said today.
We're busy about lifting that trophy on Sunday. That's our only thing that we're busy with in our minds. All focused on that game. The next game, and it's a massive one, and it's a nice one, and you feel a lot of enthusiasm around it from our fans, from the other side also.
Now, Paul, you're a former Celtic midfielder, but I'm sure you must have been impressed with how Rangers got that draw with Spurs last night.
Listen, it was a good draw, no doubt about it. And different game, but Celtic Rangers, different game. Celtic, for me, are the team that everybody's chasing in Scotland, and. Listen, I know too well what it's like, the type of games. You can get into them games full of confidence, and obviously something can happen, but the way Celtic are playing, the way Brendan's got them going, I just, in my opinion, I think they have too much for them. Even though Rangers had a good result, Kenny, I still think in form, Celtic is definitely the best team at the minute.
And just very quickly, Paul, really big boost for Celtic that Alistair Johnston, the right-back Canada international, should be able to play.
I think that, yeah, because obviously the injury from during the week, I think definitely, I think it's a bonus for them. But Celtic will need everybody to perform on Sunday, that's for sure, because it's a cup final. I said before, they want to win it, and they look good.
Paul Lambert, former Scotland and Celtic midfielder, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Staying with national teams, because the SFA has begun its search for a new manager for Scotland's women's team after sacking Pedro Martinez-Loza following the failure to qualify for Euro 2025. The Spaniard side lost a crucial playoff to Finland this month, having also missed out on the 2023 World Cup. The 48-year-old signed a new contract last year, which was due to see him through to the 2027 World Cup, but the decision has been taken by the board to end his tenure early. And just a quick shout for Championship football on after us at 7:30. It is Livingston against Partick Thistle, Laura, second against fourth.
Good stuff. Lots to talk about this weekend. Lots to talk about over the next year or so as well.
Keep us going.
Thanks, Kenny. Well, it has been 32 years since his first performance in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And now Donny Osmond is back in the show, but this time in a very different role. He's hung up his Dreamcoat and is no longer playing Joseph, instead making his debut as Elvis-inspired Pharaoh. Our entertainment reporter Indigo Stafford caught up with him in Edinburgh, where he's performing all through December at the Playhouse.
The character of the Pharaoh is so heavily based on Elvis, who you, of course, actually knew.
I remember talking to him backstage after I saw this monster on stage. I mean, that's why he's called the King of Rock and Roll. He deserved that title because he had the audience in the palm of his hand. And so every night I'm up there, I got them in the palm of my hand, baby.
We're here in Edinburgh, Scotland, having a great time. I even got a golden kilt on, baby.
I said something earlier today that I said, if Elvis could see some of the gyrations that I'm doing on stage, he would either roll over in his grave or be very jealous. Just love talking to my mom. And one day he called and my brother Alan answered the phone. He said, hello, and he hears this voice. Is your mother there? And he said, yeah, who's this? He said, oh, this is Elvis. My brother just didn't put two and two together. He said, Mom, some guy named Elvis is on the phone for you. It's Elvis Presley.
So I just walked out the stage door, and look what I found.
I heard that in the height of the Osmond mania, it was so busy when you were trying to fly into London that you actually secretly had to arrive through Scotland.
Well, those are the days that they referred to as Osmond mania. It was comparable to Beatlemania, and some people say it was even crazier. But we were banned from Heathrow because when we landed there one time, too many people came, too many fans were at the airport, and one of the balconies collapsed. Thank goodness there were no fatalities. People did get hurt, but from that point on, they banned the Osmonds from Heathrow. I think if we flew to Glasgow, got on a secret train that nobody knew about, and we took a secret way into London. That's the only way we could get in.
And the world was waking, any dream will do.
What is it about Joseph that you just have to keep coming back?
When I started Joseph back in '92, my director, the late Stephen Pimlott, told me something, and it literally changed my view and perspective of show business, at least the world of theater. He said, the theater is a place where people come to dream in public, and you're in charge of the dream. So let me make you dream, baby.
Donny Osmond there speaking to Indigo Stafford. OK, Gillian Smart has the weather.
Good evening to you. It's been a pretty dreich affair today, save for a few brighter breaks here and there. We've had a fairly weak cold front trundling southwards across the country, and at first tonight that will continue to bring a band of cloud and some patchy rain and drizzle. Then it pulls away, clearing skies. It will turn chilly and we'll see scattered showers following, mainly into the north and west, cold enough that they'll be wintry on the high ground, and temperatures dipping low enough for a fairly widespread frost. Could be some icy patches as we head into tomorrow. So a chilly start tomorrow, but a bright one, and during the morning is when we'll see the best of that sunshine, because cloud will steadily increase from the west through the day. By 2 o'clock, still some brightness hanging on over Shetland. Lots of cloud for Orkney and for the Northwest Highlands with some patchy rain. For eastern parts of the mainland, a wee bit of residual brightness, but generally that cloud thickening from the west through the day, and it will produce some patchy rain for Dumfries and Galloway up through Ayrshire and Argyll, the Northwest Highlands and the Western Isles. And you can see the start of a change here, 10 Celsius in Stornoway. It is set to turn milder. So through tomorrow night, the winds pick up, pushing that rain through, then it turns drier and it will turn increasingly mild because we find ourselves in the warm sector behind this warm front. So for Sunday and into next week, yes, it's mild, but the winds will be brisk and we have this trailing weather front that just continues to bring heavy rain to northwest Scotland in particular. So for Sunday, lots of cloud generally, that rain persistent and heavy, especially over the Northwest Highlands, Argyll, parts of Perthshire and Stirlingshire. There'll be some patchy rain for southern Scotland. Best of the limited brightness in the east. You can see milder than it has been certainly, but it will be windy with a risk of gales for the far north. And we have this yellow warning of heavy rain from the Met Office coming into effect on Sunday evening, valid right through till Tuesday. Big rainfall totals coupled with melting of lying snow could cause some issues. That's the forecast.
And that's it from us. Football's up next. Enjoy your weekend. Good night.